All right, welcome to Dave TV. I'm Dave, and this is my channel. Thanks for tuning in and supporting the channel and subscribing to it. I'm beginning to think in terms of the world around us. We really don't have a political option. We think we have a political option on the large stage, meaning the presidency or, a senator or whatever it is that you think politics will solve. But when you boil it all out, when you really distill it down to what it is there are two parties that are fairly corrupt. There's one party that seems to want to overthrow the system. There's another party that seems to want to preserve maybe what's good about the system. There's no middle ground where somebody says, we can keep the system, but we need to reform the system. There can never be any compromise in this battle, and I think that is what's really frustrating for many Americans who are just sitting back watching as violent crime goes through the roof, and at the same time, these Wall Street corporations continue to prosper in the midst of all this. So there's this dichotomy. It's like, I want a safe society and I want a fair society, but apparently you can't have both. And this is the theme now that is running through American politics. And anybody who continues to apologize for things that we know are corrupt, okay? New York Times today did a puff piece about George Soros, who basically destroys economies and governments and then goes in and invests in the spoils. He is the ultimate in slumlording on a large scale. And you can look at his track record, you can do your own research, but when someone says, hey, this guy is a philanthropist, I read that article and I almost wanted to puke. And then they're saying anybody who criticizes George Soros is anti-Semitic. Crazy. It's crazy, the world we're living in. And if those of you who are more on the left think that you're going to be safe because you're taking what's truly in vogue, the media has put it in vogue, it's in fashion, it's in style right now. Conservative politics are never in fashion, they're never in style. So I definitely I empathize with those on the right who really feel like their America is vanishing quickly. And it is. It is. What we could have, though, is an America that allows for both. But we can't. We either have to have one or the other, and we fight it out. And what happens is we kind of get neither at the end of the day. We don't really have a conservative country. We don't have a progressive country. We have a country at war with itself, so busy investing their energies into not just the horse race. I always complain about, oh, you're just talking about this horse race between Biden and Trump or in the Democratic Party or whatever the horse race is. And, for all the Tulsi Gabbard supporters on this channel, why did Tulsi lose? She was blacked out. She didn't get proper coverage. She was smeared. All of those things are true because nobody's going to emerge on the scene who talks about moderation. And I've gone over this in videos and throughout any issue. For instance, I'll just throw it one more out again, immigration. You need a border, but you need a compassionate border. You need a system to document people who are coming here. But you need a border. You don't open the border and just let people through. You don't need sanctuary cities, by the way, if you have a system that keeps track of people who are coming here and making sure that those individuals are healthy when they get here. I mean, hey, everybody in the United States is wearing a mask. I mean, we need some common sense, okay? We need some common sense, and it's not to be found. I mean, again, capitalism. Is it good? It can be, but there need to be controls on it. The banking system is corrupt, and it needs to be reformed. It needs an FDR kick in the ass. And those on the right aren't willing to do that. Those on the left propose it, but then some of them have vested interests in keeping that the same. The war machine. This is an issue that got a lot of people excited about Tulsi Gabbard for president. Here was a candidate saying we didn't need to intervene. We needed to keep our nose out of other countries' business. I'd be happy if we would just scale our activities down to supposedly fighting terrorists. Seriously. But, I have serious questions about how we're doing that. But if we were to take the Tulsi Gabbard line about, okay, there are some missions that are good missions, and we need to continue to fight those missions and fund those missions, I don't have a problem with that, but I want to know what the mission is. I want to know what the end game is. That's what I want to know. And as far as, things like Bolivia, Venezuela, Syria, we need to get the hell out. We need to get the hell out. But we have a war-based economy that runs off of this military-industrial complex where we basically have jobs created around our constant need to intervene around the world. By the way, for all of you folks who are now starting to say, well, Bernie's over here with Joe Biden and he's advising, AOC is advising, and we're going to get the progressive government now because Biden is incoherent and he's just going to nod and say sure to all the hard left stuff. And that's what you get, by the way, on the right. The right is now using all of those people to scaremonger the people in the middle to think, okay, my country is going to be defunded. Like the police they're going to be defunded. They might be in some cities. And I don't know if replacing them with social workers is the right the right way to go. As society becomes more violent, see, this is where common sense on the left is not to be found. This is why I've kind of retreated, because I might have to vote against my own economic interests in order to get more security in my neighborhood. Because I don't want the police going away. I know that, police are just inherently bad. Rogue cops are rogue cops. There are rogue politicians. There are rogue corporate CEOs. All right. Now, I know typically the lives of people aren't lost in those situations, but lives are destroyed and hurt because of rogue. You could have the old school Christian perspective on this, which I'm gravitating toward more and more, which is you got a bunch of very evil people in the world, and those people need something in their lives. If you don't believe they need Christianity or Christ in their life, then they need something. They need something to balance them and bring them to a place where they just aren't greedy, or they just aren't mean, or whatever it is. And yeah, having Donald Trump as president isn't setting that, the bar very high in that regard. But having Joe Biden as president is not going to, there is so much corruption. It would have been better if another outsider emerged who wasn't a Donald Trump type character, who believed in uniting the country. Now, Biden can say he's going to unite the country, but it's rhetoric. It's rhetoric. And people are going to vote for him because he's not Trump and he's not mean. But they're trying to shield that guy all the time from getting in the spotlight, because as soon as he opens his mouth, he might say something that's ridiculous. He might say something racist or bigoted and have to backpedal and explain himself. And, as much as Trump does this, supposedly, I think Trump just is a bomb thrower, honestly. And I don't even think half the time he knows what he's even saying. I mean, he tries to walk a line to not, you always think that Trump's going to say something outrageous in any moment. And I guess that's the thrill of covering Donald Trump. The news media, if they do manage to get rid of Trump, will miss him. They are going to miss the gift that keeps on giving. I think they're probably hoping for endless investigations into Trump after he leaves office, because that'll keep ratings up for all those people that, are recovering from Trump derangement syndrome. The point of this video, though, is that individuals, people working, taking care of their families, going to school, going to work, whatever it is that you do in your community, you need to start doing that. And you need to start having influence in your communities, and do it at the local level. National politics has become a blood sport, and it's pushing us closer and closer to a soft, we'll call it a soft conflict between tribes. I mean, you see hard evidence of that on the streets, hard evidence. And if you say it out loud, you get called names. And I'm not any of those things. What I want is to keep my family protected and safe. And it might mean I have to vote for a Republican, for instance, who believes in the rule of law. And if you don't like the laws as written, then you need to figure out a way to pass new laws that are better. In any event, folks, as time goes on, you tend to start getting to the root and to the meat of everything. This isn't just, when I do this channel, when I do videos, this channel is not about just reporting on an issue and then taking a hard position on that. What I think what we ought to do is consider all sides to issues and come to some kind of conclusion, and not just discount people we disagree with 100%. There are some things that are non-starters for me. Like, I think we need police. If you want to say, okay, well, we need a certain type of police for this and maybe a different trained police for that. Yeah, I want police in case somebody starts shooting at me. I want police because I'm seeing it all over the country. And if you're not seeing these videos, then you need to try harder. You need to try harder and look. If you're in an echo chamber, get out of the echo chamber. If you're listening to just lefties, listen to some right-wingers. Right-wingers are not always wrong. Left-wingers are not always right. And vice versa. So this concludes my video. I want to express how, even though I want to keep this channel going, until we start to see some type of compromise, again, Tulsi Gabbard, part of her platform, nobody else really talked about this, is, hey, I'd like to work across the aisle and get something done. I can find some common ground with people. That's a great idea. And if you truly love peace, if you're a peacemaker and not just a bomb thrower, because if you're a peacemaker, you understand that even though you disagree with somebody on an issue, that they're not necessarily your enemy. They're somebody you need to try to understand and work with. And if you don't want to understand them, then we're done. We've lost it. And I think we're starting to see large areas, large pockets of that develop around the country. And I don't know if there's a way to turn it around. More people need to stand up and say, no, this hard left solution is not a solution. It's rhetoric. All right. And this old 1994 position coming from the right or the neoliberal or whatever, wherever it's coming from, we need to update that position. We need to get more of a consensus And we need to find something that kind of bridges the gap. That would be good. I don't think we're ever going to get there, but I know we're definitely not going to get there if we don't even attempt it. If we just dig in and do our own little echo chamber and think, oh, the topic du jour is defunding the police. The topic du jour is racism. And then we just keep pounding that. Today the Washington Redskins are going to say goodbye to their name. Do I think they should change their name? No. 9 out of 10 Native Americans think the name is fine. 9 out of 10. They don't care. They're normal. They don't really care. Naming a team the Redskins isn't really that offensive. Why is it offensive? Yes, we suppressed. We did a lot of things to Native American populations, but a lot of them are still here. A lot of them don't like what's happening to the country either. And we need to bring them into the conversation. But a proper thing would be to ask Native Americans, and they were asked, and 90% of them said the name's fine. And yet we're going to invest emotional capital on that while basically ignoring the general plight of Native Americans around the country. That's not going to fix what Native Americans deal with each day. It's not going to fix it. Painting murals on streets is not going to fix relationships. It's not going to fix how we view each other. In fact, it might stoke animosity. It's an overreaction. It's an overreach, and we need to start to talk to each other rather than do these ceremonial acts which mean nothing. They mean nothing. They make people maybe feel good for a few seconds. Usually the people who are doing it are white liberals who are doing it because they feel guilty. All right? And there's nothing you can do. You are who you are. Unless you kill yourself and eliminate yourself, you are who you are. So again, if we're going to live above ground, all right, and keep moving in a forward direction, we need progress, which means we need to talk to each other and we need to come to an agreement on issues rather than trying to steamroll one another. And we'll have a better country because we'll open up communication. It'll be a cathartic experience for many Americans who feel as though their views are now, in the closet. They have to be quiet about what they believe in. And you may see a reaction at the voting booth like you've never seen before. You might. Don't look at any polling data right now. People who say Trump is toast. If Kanye West really does get into this and starts to peel black voters away from both parties, Trump's going to waltz into the Oval Office. He will win bigly. He will win. And it won't even be pretty. And people, of course, will hate Kanye West, and he'll be the most hated person in the world, and so forth. I don't know if that's going to happen, but that could be a likely outcome. And for a Trump second term, if it were to happen, Trump has done criminal justice reform. He's done prison reform. He's done stimulus. I think you could persuade Trump to do a UBI. I mean, this is what I don't understand, okay? Okay, you don't like his personality. You just don't like him as a human being. I totally get that. I wish Trump was a different type of person, but he's not. But that might be the reason why he got elected. You have to look at all of these variables. But imagine, I said this a couple of times in videos, imagine if the Democrats had sat down and said, you know what? This guy, he's had a track record of, he's conservative in a lot of ways. But when he was a New York businessman, he gave to both political parties. He talked about a single-payer healthcare system at one point. And if you wanted to do single-payer, The people who like Trump do this in Trump We Trust routine. Imagine if you harness that to get stuff done, stuff that would never get done with a neoliberal as president, because they would do Mitt Romney care, which is just a big boon to the insurance companies. People aren't thinking. They're not thinking. They're just thinking, orange man bad, America going to hell, we got to get him out of there. That's all they're thinking. And it's the worst. It's when you get desperate, you do stupid stuff. And people are going to they're going to rue the day that they pick Joe Biden as president if it happens. They're going to look back and go, what were we thinking? We were thinking orange man bad, Trump derangement syndrome, foggy, can't see, enraged all the time, resist, resist, resist. It's garbage. It's garbage. It's just like you hate Trump, so rather than try to work with Trump, you just try to destroy Trump. Stupid. Stupid. You could get so much done with Trump because Trump wants to get things done. Now, again, like immigration, for instance, okay, Trump believes in a border. You would have to say, Mr. President, have your border, have your wall. We want a compassionate system at the border. We don't want any more kids to wind up inside of cages. We don't want that to happen. Can we get there? Can we do that? Can we have a humane system, a streamlined system that gets people here who want to, who are fleeing persecution, who want a better lives for themselves, who want better lives, and who want to work for, if you want to call it the American dream, maybe that doesn't exist anymore, but at least a better life for people. You could get so much done. I guarantee you. For people who think Trump, no way would Trump do X, Y, and Z. He wants to get credit for stuff. I don't care what his motive is, by the way. If he's a narcissist, then use it. Say, okay, he wants to get credit for stuff. He wants to get up there and say, look what I did. I know, people they're mad about COVID. They're mad about the way he handled that. Nobody, look, I don't care who the president was when this started. It would have been a disaster no matter how it was done. And I still think it's a disaster as we speak. And it has to do with the fact that we are doing unprecedented things when in the past we didn't do those unprecedented things, and somehow we managed to get through. So this is an opportunity. All right. Now, if Biden becomes president, all the neoliberals, all the neoconservatives, all the warmongers, all of those military insiders and generals and people who think they're smarter, they'll all come forward and say, great, full speed ahead, regime change over here. In China, China is going to become not a problem anymore for the United States, supposedly. I don't buy that for a second. China has been taking jobs from the United States for decades. Ross Perot said it, and he was right. Bill Clinton, I think, said it a little bit and then backed away from it and did NAFTA. Did the opposite. Became a libertarian on trade. Yep. We'll just go full speed ahead, and these factories will close down. All these old mills all over the country turning into like apartment complexes and being remodeled, retooled to do other things. Yeah, I know. We're going from the industrial age into a different age. I get that. But in China, in climate change, you guys are worried about climate change? China is building hundreds of coal-fired power plants. Hundreds. And we sit here, and if we're not the dominant player on the world stage and we allow China to take over as the dominant player on the world stage, and I'm not saying we go to war with China, that's not it. you're never going to solve these problems that you think you can solve. If you don't have China and India and Russia, which again, you can't even say Russia because we're in the Cold War again. And this was started by the resistance movement. Anyway, folks, thanks for watching the channel. There's a lot to think about. What we need to get away from is this idea that compromise is evil, because compromise gets things for the American people. It gets things done. And if it's my way or the highway, it's gridlock. It's forever gridlock. It's, you know, budgets that don't balance for years to come, and budgets that favor those at the top of the food chain and the military. And that long term is just going to destroy our currency. And there's so many things that it's tied to. So at any event, that's my video. It's a ramble fest here, but thanks for watching. See you soon.